Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Engaging with Relevance at Scale, how Fluke used AI to transform their sales and marketing programs. I'm Brian Anderson, News Editor at Demand Gen Report, and I'll be your moderator for this presentation. Really do appreciate everyone taking the time to join us today. Our presenters from Fluke, Lattice, and Conversica have a great presentation in store for us today, and I'm looking forward to the discussion. So let's get the show on the road. Going to roll through a few housekeeping slides here. Firstly, for those of you who may be new to Demand Gen Report, we are an online media company publishing daily news, a weekly email newsletter, special reports, original research, and a wide variety of additional resources. So if you haven't done so already, feel free to go check us out at demandgenreport.com and join over 50,000 subscribers to our weekly newsletter by subscribing today. Demand Gen Report also hosts a premier live event in Scottsdale, Arizona every February called the B2B Marketing Exchange, which focuses on helping professionals improve B2B marketing and sales strategies and results. Rated the top B2B marketing conference by Forbes, B2BMX brings more than 1,000 marketers together every year for a 3-day event that includes more than 85 sessions throughout 6 topical tracks. You can learn more about this unique event and sign up for updates at b2bmarketing.exchange. We also invite you to become a part of our online community of B2BM experts. Follow the link you see here to the right to check out our community where you can connect with like-minded professionals, join in B2B-focused conversations and initiatives, and even compete for some great prizes. Speaking of prizes, we're also hosting a special sweepstakes throughout this week-long webinar series where attendees can win a free ticket to our annual event, Starbucks gift cards, and maybe even a $500 Expedia gift card. If you register for a BII 18 webinar, you will automatically be entered for a chance to win. And if you attend any sessions live, you'll receive a second entry. We will be giving away 1 Starbucks gift card per session, 1 B2BMX pass per day, and 1 grand prize $500 Expedia gift card at the end of the series. So be sure to attend all this week's BII 18 sessions for your best chance to win. For today's presentation, we're using the On24 platform. During the presentation, you can access all the information you need from the platform toolbar. During and after today's presentation, please follow along and share your thoughts and feedback on Twitter and LinkedIn using the hashtag BII18. You'll also see that you can tweet from directly within the On24 platform here using the Twitter widget on the left-hand side of your screen. We also encourage you to ask our presenter questions. To do so, simply click the Q&A widget at the top right corner of the screen. Today's presentation is slated to run about 25 to 35 minutes with 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A following the session. You can submit your questions using this Q&A widget at any time for our presenters. Today's session is being recorded, and all attendees will receive an archive link to the presentation to go back and review or share with your colleagues. In addition to joining the conversation online and submitting your questions, we also welcome you to let us know how we are doing. In an effort to constantly improve the level of value we provide through our webinar series events and other content, we put together a very brief survey that will automatically launch once this webinar session ends. You can also take and submit the survey at any time during this webinar by clicking on the survey icon circled here on the bottom of your screen. Before signing off today, please take a moment to complete this questionnaire. Doing so will help us better serve you in the future. Now I'm pleased to introduce our featured speakers for this session, Katrina Leaf, Nipul Chakshi, and Victor Belfour. Katrina is the Global Marketing Automation Manager at Fluke Corporation, a manufacturer of industrial testing equipment. She develops and implements standard work around quality assurance, execution, maintenance, and reporting of automated marketing programs and email distribution. She's tactically focused on the execution of the company's Eloqua program, related tasks, and integrations. Nipul is the VP of Marketing at Lattice Engines, where he acts as the glue between product, sales, and marketing to help drive revenue on a daily basis. Prior to working at Lattice, Nipul worked for companies such as Yammer, Marketo, Merked Systems, and Siebel Systems. Last but not least, Victor is the SVP of Channel Sales and Business Development at Conversica, and his career has been focused on creating value through partnerships and channels. Prior to joining Conversica, he led the partnership team at Open Sesame, the world's largest library of e-learning courses for enterprise companies. There, his team managed partnerships with Oracle, SAP, Workday, Cornerstone On Demand, and other software giants. Before Open Sesame, Victor was an early VP of Business Development at RingCentral, where he helped build partnerships with some of the largest telcos and web companies in the world. With that, I will pass it over to you, Nipul. Go ahead and take it away.
Great. Thank you, Brian. Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be here today with our partner, Conversica, and our joint customer, Fluke, and really excited to share have Fluke share their story on how they're driving value with AI. But first, a little bit of context. As B2B marketing and sales professionals, it's no surprise to us that buyers are increasingly sophisticated. Everybody expects, and even us in our own kind of capacity as a buyer, we expect engagement from brands on our own terms. We expect offers that are personalized. We expect insights, and we expect all that stuff in a very timely and relevant manner. If we don't get that, we're going to tune out brands. So it's no surprise that given that, there's been such a wave of interest in account-based marketing. Account-based marketing is really the way, we kind of think about it, the way our customers think about it. It's, kind of the B2B equivalent of what one-to-one marketing is in the B2C world. And you can see, kind of the popularity of account-based marketing taking hold within the B2B space through some of the stats that I've got listed here on this slide. Challenge that most of us face as B2B marketers is how do we actually scale that one-to-one personalization, not just to, and make that available not just to our strategic accounts, not just to one product line, not just to, one kind of growth lever that we might be accessing, but across our entire target market. How do we make it so that we can actually engage with buyers, and apply these ABM principles around one-to-one marketing in a more scalable way? If you do that, there's a lot of value to be gained. And what we found within our customer base is companies will typically see substantial benefits across the entire funnel, ultimately resulting in revenue growth and margin improvements across their entire business if they're able to do this successfully. And this is why Lattice has invested heavily in terms of our platform to help customers leverage AI to create and identify the very segments within their target market that they need to be able to engage with. So our customers will typically use Lattice to ingest all of the data that they have, that they know about their individual customers and their prospects. All the data stored within their CRM systems, marketing automation systems, their web analytics systems, any transactional data they may have, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Lattice does all the hard work of bringing all that stuff together, mashing it together, and then making it available to marketers in a real-time basis so that they can create segments. And then what our customers will then do is then take those segments and publish them into the different execution systems that they use to run campaigns. Things like marketing automation systems, CRM systems, their social and ad channels to inform their Google AdWords strategy, as well as to drive automated engagement through AI platforms like Conversica. And so what I want to do now is just switch gears a bit about what Conversica is as a platform before he turns it over to Katrina from Fluke.
Thank you so much, Nipul. Really appreciate the introduction, and thank you so much to you and to Katrina, and of course to Brian, for doing this with us. Let's talk a little bit about Conversica. And we did a lot of research on demand generation, on marketing, particularly in the B2B segment. And one of the results that we got, and this is published by State of Inbound, one of the interesting results, unexpected results, was that marketing leads tend to be perhaps the least favored lead source by salespeople. We can definitely guess as to the reasons why, right? One of the reasons, one of the obvious reasons, is that because most companies don't use Lattice. If they did Lattice, the quality of leads would be much, much higher. And they would be much, much more valued by the salespeople. But the question that the marketer faces is, well, how to get more respect from salespeople, or how to increase the quality of leads. We did some of our own research on what happens as a result of this kind of perceived low value of leads. And one of the things we learned was that salespeople routinely stop following up after about 1 or 2 attempts on inbound leads, or any leads for that matter. In fact, the average was exactly 2.1, right? So just about 2. This is remarkable because if you look at rules of engagement for most sales departments, the number would be anywhere starting at maybe 6 minimum to as many as 12 or more. Yet salespeople just don't do it. And what's interesting about the graph that you guys are looking at is this. It appears that they're actually, the salespeople that is, that they're actually intuitively correct. It does appear that the return on each subsequent contact after 2 does seem to drop off quite a bit. The curve does flatten out. But there is still 30% of total value of your pipeline is still in that orange area that's nobody tapping. And perhaps humans aren't really best equipped to tap into that particular value because, well, humans are expensive. And this is one of the ways in which we're so complementary with Lattice, because what we worry about and what we think about all the time is scaling. And to get that value at scale, you need automation, right? You cannot do it with humans. So another thing that Nipul brought up was timeliness and promptness. And this is really critical because the question is this. Well, a lot of leads, 2/3 of all leads, as you saw in the previous slides, do not get adequate follow-up. Fine. But what does ideal follow-up look like? And so we learned that it has these 4 aspects to it, right? Promptness. The value of a lead drops incredibly fast as time elapses before the initial contact is made. So being able to respond very, very quickly is really critical. It needs to be personalized. It cannot be just like a generic HTML email from some nurturing campaign. It needs to be personal, right? It needs to be persistent. We talked about, that only two attempts on average are made. That is absolutely not acceptable. It takes many, marketers know, and salespeople know, sales managers know, that it takes a lot more attempts than that to get successful engagement. And finally, you need to focus on performance. Your emails or whatever ways of communication that you use need to connect. So you need to have accurate phone numbers. You need to have highly deliverable emails, things of that sort. And so this is our solution to this problem. Her name is Rachel. Rachel is has a lot of human qualities. Rachel, just like a human, she writes emails or chats or text messages. She reads them, she understands them, she interprets them, she communicates with prospects and customers, she communicates with the sales team internally. She functions as a sales assistant, right? And she's also completely autonomous. She does it on her own. However, unlike a typical sales assistant, she's infinitely scalable. She's capable of handling tens and hundreds of thousands of conversations at the same time in 6 different languages at the moment, but potentially a lot more. She never has a bad day. She never gets upset. She never gets frustrated. She's infinitely persistent. She will follow up as long as, her boss, the CMO or head of sales, tells her to. Like I said, she never has a bad day. So this is an example of a typical conversation, and I'll be very quick here. But I think what I want you guys to walk away with is just this idea that how conversational, how casual, how personalized this conversation is. And if you look at the yellow box in the upper left, you'll see that it's kind of stacked. So what you see here is actually just one of the emails that were sent. But in reality, there was like 6 or 7 follow-ups before, or attempts before the prospect actually responded. But hi, Ben. Thank you for downloading our free trial. Blah, blah, blah. Would love to connect. Ashley, Customer Solutions Assistant. And Ashley, of course, is a Rachel, right? Or let's call her Rachel's sibling, Rachel's sister. And so here you see them engaging in this completely natural conversation. So Ben, who's a prospect, thanks Ashley. Really appreciate your persistence because she did reach out some number of times. Yep, would love to speak to one of your folks. Hey, then Ashley writes again, is this the right number? Then response, no, it's not the right number. Here's a better number. At this point, Ashley notifies her human. She notifies somebody from the sales team that I have a hot lead for you and stuff. Meanwhile, she enters her 3rd stage, and each conversation will have these 3 stages. One is getting engagement, getting Ben to raise his hand. Second is to establish how these 2 people want to meet, be it on the phone, in person, what's the right phone number, what's the right time, schedule appointment, whatever's necessary. And then the 3rd one is really critical. How did it go? Did you get what you wanted out of the conversation with a salesperson? Did you even talk? And very often, in about 1/3 of all cases, the answer is no. Here, luckily, Ben is clearly satisfied, but very often the answer is negative. No, the salesperson didn't show up or stood me up. No, I stood them up, and they never followed up. They promised to send me pricing. They sent pricing for their own product, so forth. So why do we automate lead follow-up engagement? Again, coming back to this idea of scaling, right? There is no cherry picking. It eliminates bias. We follow up on all leads, right? As long as marketing scores them high enough. We follow up on all of them. We do it at a great scale, right? And so, final slide is what impact does that have on customers? Like, what is the real impact? And the real impact is that on average, our customers, and we have about 1,200 of them, get 30% more sales appointments than running human teams alone. Rachel's response rate, on average, across all of our customers is about 35%. Compare that to your typical, marketing campaign. You know what those numbers are, right? And 35% is not like a click-through rate or an open rate. This is a human being actually typing an email response to Rachel. And 40% of those responses are positive. Yes, whatever it is, Rachel, you want me to do, set up an appointment, set up a conference call, whatever it is, yes, I will do it. And so Rachel is pretty smart. Up to date, she has had about 350 million conversations, about 50 million leads, and set about 6 million sales appointments. And as you can see, some of the top marketing companies in the, or some of the top marketing departments in the world use her. Oracle, Symantec, Microsoft, Chrysler. We have now a lot of sports franchises. You see Sacramento Kings here, but we use so companies like, or franchises like New Orleans Saints and Cleveland Cavs use us. So that's what Rachel does.
Thanks, Victor. Hey everyone, this is Katrina Leaf. Again, I'm the Global Marketing Automation Manager at Fluke Corporation, and I'm excited to tell you a little bit about my experience at Fluke and the engagements that we saw leveraging Lattice and Conversica in-house. A little bit about Fluke so that you can understand our company. So Fluke is the worldwide leader in the manufacture and distribution of electronic test tools, as well as software. The products that we manufacture are used in manufacturing facilities, hospitals, anywhere that you have equipment that needs to be validated, to be monitored, and make sure that it stays up and running. You will likely find a Fluke product within that facility. Fluke has a platform that we use for our marketing automation called Eloqua. And within Eloqua, they have a built-in scoring functionality. And it's what we call a behavioral lead scoring functionality. Behavioral models look at things like the demographic information on a contact, as well as the behavioral information on a contact. So have I engaged in your, have I visited your website? Have I been to a landing page or to a microsite on your page? In addition to industry information on that account or that individual, job title, job role, things like that. This is what's factored into a behavioral score. Predictive scoring is a separate type of lead scoring that uses information in a similar fashion. It will look at firmographic information, technologies that are being used with that company, and different attributes on buyer intent, is the company growing, very interesting information that we don't have access to outside of Eloqua. So we at Fluke experienced some complications with leveraging just the behavioral lead scoring information. And we were struggling to find the right mix of that demographic and that behavioral data to tell us when someone was actually interested in purchasing or speaking with someone from our sales team. And so we had heard about predictive scoring, and we decided to investigate, and we heard about Lattice. Lattice is a great company that we've partnered up with to implement a predictive lead scoring tool. So the challenge that we faced at Fluke was, again, we had a hard time determining when we should be contacting an individual based on what we know about them and how they're engaging with us. We found that the scores that we were receiving based on the models we built were scoring contacts, but we were doing something that we refer to as double dipping. So essentially, if somebody would come to our website and be added to our database and then engage by opening emails that we sent to them, visiting our landing pages, and filling out our forms, they were being scored across all of those activities, which was great, but they're actually just doing what we want them to do. They're clicking on the email, they're visiting the landing page, they're filling out the form, and we're adding all of these scores and calling them, but they weren't exactly ready to speak with someone in inside sales. So we tried to determine, is there a better way to do this? A way to understand who we should be talking to and prioritizing those conversations with those individuals. And so we found that with Lattice, it would score the information on a contact or on an account, and it would tell us the likelihood that that person will purchase our products. So it told us, spend a little bit more time talking to these individuals versus these individuals. And that helped us to prioritize what we were doing. The reason that was important for us was because we were sending all of these scored leads over to our inside sales team, and they were saying, we don't want to call these guys anymore. These guys are not really interested. They're just engaging. And so we found that by sending these scores from Lattice, the likelihood that these contact purchase was much greater. And so Lattice really helped us to bridge the gap that we were seeing between our sales and marketing teams. A little bit about the Lattice platform. I talked a little bit just a minute ago about the models that we built and how it tells you, who's likely to purchase your product. So to implement this, we ended up sitting down, having a workshop with the Lattice team, and put together something called a training model. So we were able to provide them with information on who already purchased our products, who have been interested but haven't quite pulled the trigger, and we put together a model that looks at who is most likely to buy products. And that's what we run all of our new contacts across and score them. So it tells us, this is what your customers have in common. These are the new prospects in your database that you should spend more time talking to. So the Lattice Engines platform used our own information to help us determine who we should be talking to more. Who is the right customer for us? The great thing about Lattice is that it scores the contact in real time. So as a new customer or prospect is added to our database, we can run them up to the Lattice immediately, pull back a score, and then we can determine what the next path for that individual should be. Should we send them to a nurture campaign? Should we just send them our newsletter? What should the next step be? It's all based on what that Lattice score is now. We did not have that before. The other great thing about this is, again, it embeds directly into our existing workflows. So we didn't have to go out and expand our team or add additional headcounts to be able to bring this on. It embedded right into our existing workflows, into our existing campaign canvases, and that really helped us to be able to justify moving forward with Lattice. We have Lattice. Lattice has been up and running. We're actively scoring our contacts, but we unfortunately have a lot of leads coming in. Unfortunately, right? Sounds like a terrible problem to have. We just don't have the inside sales team to be able to support all of that. So we have all of these leads. The inside sales team can't get to all of them. So we had to determine, how do we best prioritize these? So we leveraged the Lattice score to say, these are the people that we should be following up with first. But we wanted to still communicate with the individuals who might not be right there on the cusp and ready to pull the trigger. We still want to talk to those individuals because they are important customers and prospects to us. So we decided that we were going to bring on Conversica. Conversica, again, is this AI tool that allows us to communicate with these individuals. And it was actually introduced to us through another Fluke company, and they were using it. They ran a trial with the platform, and they were getting ready to invest. And so they said, check this out. We think you'll be impressed. So we ran a trial with Conversica, leveraging Lattice leads. And in a couple of slides here, I'll show you what the results were. But Conversica really brought some new things to the table for us. It allowed our marketing team to get through more of the leads that we had coming in a timely manner. As you can see here on the screen, there are multiple types of conversations that can be had with Conversica. You can talk to customers about events that are coming up, pre or post event. You can have inbound lead conversations, cross-sell, upsell conversations. It's really endless. You can talk to your customers through various stages of the buying journey. So that was really appealing to us. The other great thing about Conversica is that we're not trying to replace inside sales. We still have a definite need for that team. This is really to help our inside sales team prioritize the conversations that they are having instead of making failed phone call attempts. By the time we engage with Conversica, that individual has already said that they do want to speak to someone, and so we passed that information over to the inside sales team, and they're expecting that phone call from an inside sales representative. So it really helps us work smarter, faster, and much more efficient. Fluke. We knew that we needed to prioritize the process that our leads go through for us to make an impact, and leverage some of the data from Lattice that we receive back when we send a contact over to the cloud and get the score. We leverage that information to have a more meaningful conversation through Conversica. The examples that you see on the screen here are actual conversations that our individual contacts within our database had with our bot, whose name was Megan. So we use this data enrichment tool and functionality from Lattice to have better conversations with these contacts. And then we leveraged that information in the conversation threads. So it might be a little bit hard to see here on the screen, but we can see information on an account. So an example would be we are looking at information on a specific industry that might be applicable to the conversation that we're having with that individual. We can pull that information back from Lattice and incorporate that into our conversation with the individual through Conversica. My proposal to implement this new workflow into our existing process at Fluke was for us to take the information that we currently have coming into Eloqua and have all of it run through the Lattice data cloud, have all of the contacts actively scored upon entry into the database, and then enrich some of that data with whatever information we're looking for on those individuals. And then, depending on how they score out, we will pass that information over to Conversica for Megan, our AI bot, to engage with them. So the goal here again is we're not trying to replace our inside sales team. We are trying to make it so they don't make those failed phone call attempts, and we allow Megan to do that work for us. We had so many leads coming in at the time that our inside sales team just could not get to them. So Megan really solved that problem for us. This slide is just an example of the workflow between the systems. So if you start on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see that we have leads coming in from all sorts of different sources, from events, from our website, through social, PPC. The contacts come into Eloqua as the entry point, and then we send them into Lattice to have scored, and then we pass them over to our CRM system. And depending on if they had already raised their hand and wanted to speak with someone, or if they were a non-hand raiser, depends on how they split from there. Anyone who was already raising their hand and wanted to speak with us, we continue to send over to our inside sales team. That part of the process did change. Where it did change was if someone had not yet raised their hand. Those individuals we would pass over to Conversica for time engagement with Megan, our AI bot. If Megan engaged with the individual, we would then pass it over to our inside sales team if they wanted to be contacted by a sales representative or wanted more information. If they did not respond to Megan, we would just add them back into Eloqua and continue to nurture them just as we would any other prospect within the database. If at some point they did re-engage with us through the nurture campaigns, we would then put them back into Conversica for another attempt at a real-time engagement. If they then said that they wanted to speak with a sales representative, again, we'd pass them back to our inside sales team. Once these leads hit our inside sales team, they leverage the Lattice score on that record to prioritize the order that they will follow up with those individuals. So it really helped our inside sales team not only stop receiving such high volumes of leads that were not exactly hand raisers, but it also helped them to prioritize the leads that they did have within their queue based on the Lattice score. So at the start of this presentation, I mentioned that we had run a trial. I talked to you a little bit about the experience that we had. The next couple of slides are going to talk about the pilot program that we ran and what helped us make the decision to move forward with Lattice and Conversica. I'm not going to kid you, it took a lot of convincing to get the business to agree that we needed to do this. A couple our size is always concerned that there could be, something could go wrong, that there could be potential lead loss, that something's not going to go right. And so, unfortunately, it, again, took a lot of convincing to get these guys to agree to this. However, coincidence or not, I'm not sure, timing was on my side. And when I proposed this initially to the team, we had our national sales meeting. And I suggested that we run this pilot program across just one business unit, and it'd be really quick. And they were like, absolutely not. Now's just really not the time. And I said, okay, well, we could do it next week when there's no one in our inside sales team to answer the phones because everybody's at the sales meeting. And immediately their ears perked up. Everyone became interested in finding some sort of a substitute while the inside was gone for a week. So quickly we decided that we were going to run this trial with Conversica and Lattice. And we would have a backup basically for the inside sales team that was gone that week. So we decided we were going to run this trial on leads coming in through PPC for 5 days. Monday through Friday of the week of the national sales meeting. These leads, again, were only from a PPC campaign. So it was not all lead inflow for this business unit, just from one lead source. So what you see on the screen here in the trial 1 results was the first week that we ran the trial. So in those 5 days, we had 54 contacts that engaged with us through PPC that we sent over to Conversica for engagement. We had a 35% engagement rate and 9 opportunities as a result of the Conversica engagement over those 5 days. When the business came back from the national sales meeting, we shared the results. They were pretty pleased. So they said, okay, well, maybe we could do this again. Let's try this again. So we ended up running another trial just to see how things performed. Again, the trial was for 5 days, and it was only on PPC leads. So we didn't change anything. In the second trial, we had 95 contacts that were messaged through the bot, and we had a 48% engagement rate, which was fantastic. 21 opportunities were generated, and we did close 1 deal during that time frame. So again, the business was very excited. Everybody was eager to learn more about the platform and how we're just moving forward. All very positive. Some of the key learnings that we saw as a result of this trial were what Victor had mentioned a few minutes ago about the number of attempts that it takes to get in touch with an individual. We found that most of the conversions took place for us were after 5 engagement attempts. Our inside sales team, through our current process, stopped engaging between 2 and 3 attempts. Because it's the same team that's making all of these attempts on an individual, they don't have the bandwidth to make 2, 3, 4 attempts to get a hold of an individual. And that they only had time for 2, and they had so many new leads coming in that they had to move on and just hope that that person would give them a call back or reply to their email. So for us, finding out that most of these conversions were taking place after 5 engagements was huge. That tells us that even if we didn't decide to move forward with Lattice, we needed to change our process. Contacts who begin their journey digitally are also more likely to stay engaged digitally. If someone engages with us through social or through PPC, they're not picking up the phone to call us and ask us for more information. The times have changed. Technology's evolved, and more people do their research and learn about technologies and products and tools online. So we find that it's a higher likelihood that that individual will stay engaged with us through email versus somebody picking up the phone and trying to call them until they're ready. So that was a great key learning for us as well. What's next for Fluke? So we're already using Lattice to score all of our contacts and tell us the likelihood that they'll convert. But we have something else that we would like to do, which is to take a look at the contacts that are in our database and tell us if they already own this product, what's the likelihood that they will also need this product from our portfolio. And so we will begin using Lattice to help score contacts for cross-sell and upsell campaigns, and then leverage Conversica to engage in those conversations. This is something we're very excited about because it's something that we haven't done at Fluke before. And so having the ability to know who really needs this tool is huge for us. It will help it will help us to determine who we should spend the most time on having conversations with, and what are the materials that we should be sending them to market to those individuals once they already own this product. How do we start talking to them about this tool that goes great with the product that they've already purchased? So that's next for Fluke.
All right, great. Thank you, Katrina, Nipul, and Victor for that great presentation. It was great to learn about Fluke's use of AI and how it was adopted into the company's workflow. It was really intriguing stuff, and it sparked some great questions as well. But before I get to those, I'd like to remind everyone once again to please share your thoughts and feedback before logging off today. You can do so by clicking on the survey icon, which you can see at the bottom of your screen. The survey will also automatically launch when the session ends. So now let's get to those questions. The first one I have is from Fred, and he asked, and I believe it's directed towards Katrina. Katrina, can you talk about some of the gotchas or the things we should be really aware of before doing an AI project?
Yeah, so for us at Fluke, I think one of the most important things to know is that investigating some of these tools may seem a little overwhelming. For Fluke, we don't have a huge team of resources available to implement these things, but that didn't stop me from investigating and more to see how this could help us. For us, again, we've got a small team of people in marketing automation, and the business is always afraid that it's going to take time away from Jen. I think most companies, that's the primary thing that everyone's focused on. For us, I took the time to research about Lattice and about Conversica, and come back to the business and tell them this is the impact that we could see. And, even though I went to the business and said, let's just try this out, and they pushed back, I came up with another reason that they should consider this, just give it a chance. And, coincidentally, we had that national sales meeting, so timing worked out on my side, but, we couldn't be happier with the experience of both of these platforms so far. It's proven itself that this was a great decision for Fluke to make.
Hey, so if there's one other thing, if I can just interject on that, Brian, Katrina, I think that was a great answer. One thing that I've definitely observed as well amongst our customers when it comes to gotchas, a key part of success from a B2B marketing standpoint is making sure you're aligned with sales. So obviously, it's really critical that you have kind of the complete buy-in for not only management, but on the sales organization as well.
That makes sense. Thanks for sharing that, you too. Next question we have is from Karen. Karen asked, I believe this is directed to the folks at Lattice and Conversica, but she asks, how does Lattice's AI differ from that of Conversica's AI platform? Nipul, do you want to take first crack at that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, in the simplest terms, the way I would think about it is Lattice provides kind of the data and insights to help you to understand who to target and what to say. And the Conversica's platform is all about using AI to really kind of execute on that in a more real-time way. Victor, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add there.
Well, perhaps the only thing to add, I mean, Nipul, this was a completely accurate characterization. One thing I might add is that we here look at AI from perhaps a slightly different angle. We think about AI as being, a segment of AI technology that is by its nature designed to assist a human to make better decisions. And most analytics AI is designed to do just that. Certainly Lattice is one of the best examples on how AI enables marketers like Katrina to make exceptionally good decisions. Conversica is slightly different. Conversica is completely autonomous. So it's not designed to help a human make better decisions. It just does things on its own in an autonomous fashion. Think about it as park assist feature in a car versus an actual fully self-driving car. Both are necessary, both are important, they're different, and they serve a different function. And so Conversica certainly is on the more autonomous side. Once humans make the decision based on information that comes from Lattice on who to engage, when to engage them, Conversica goes ahead and autonomously engages them and converts them to opportunities.
That makes sense. Thanks, you two, for that. And kind of building off of that, I have a question here from Caroline. Caroline asked, Victor, it would be great to kind of get a good description of how is Conversica's AI offering different from the other chatbot offerings that are out there in the space today?
Yeah, so Caroline, it's a great question. Question that we hear a lot, and it is quite different. And actually, being autonomous is sort of one of those ways. So the majority of chatbots on the market today actually do not have a ton to do with artificial intelligence. The vast majority of chatbots on the market today are natural language interfaces to some sort of a knowledge base, to a wiki page, to an intranet page, to a search engine of some kind. So what chatbots are really good at is answering questions like, hey, what are your payment options? And then the chatbot would go, oh, I have found the following articles on, payment options, Visa, MasterCard, whatever. Or, hey, what's your address? What's your pricing? And then it would display, hey, I found the following links to our pricing page. It responds to a question, so it responds to a question that comes from a user. This is completely different. This is very complex, bidirectional, natural language conversations that will pass any Turing test you can imagine. Very rarely does anyone, almost never, I can't recall the last time somebody said, hey, are you a bot? These are completely natural conversations, and they're not in response to necessarily a question to Rachel. Rachel decides when to initiate this conversation based on a number of different parameters, such as a Lattice score.
Great, thanks for that. Next question I have is from Daniel. Daniel has a general question around the content challenges that are associated with AI and being able to serve personalized content to different segments. How exactly do you address these types of challenges? Nicole, do you want to give that a shot?
Yeah, I'll take a crack at that. So in general, obviously, the more we strive to personalize, the more we feel like we need more content. Interestingly enough, though, what we found a lot of our customers doing is, they find that the content actually exists out there. One of our customers, for example, they were looking to basically do segmentation and personalize based on not only industry, but also some, kind of partner solution that a customer had. And so they didn't necessarily, like many of us, their marketing department was very strapped. And as a result, they didn't have ready content available in marketing. But they found that the sales reps had content that they developed just as part of their natural deal cycle. So they were able to mine that content and leverage that as a starting point for creating and getting started with personalizing content using the segmentation criteria that they wanted to be able to use. So when it comes to scaling on the content, you know, almost invariably, someone in sales has some measure of content that's available that you can use to get started with. I would also say that it doesn't need to be a very complex segment that you need to get started with. You know, you don't necessarily, you know, you can ultimately start with, let's say, an industry-based segmentation. And then on top of that, you know, over time, as you develop content or as you find it within your sales organization, you can layer on other criteria, things like complementary technology solutions or, you know, interests that the accounts might have expressed based on keyword searches that they're doing on the internet. You know, and kind of have more topical content that way. So there are a variety of different tactics that you can use, but the number one tactic that I've seen is really mining what's already available within the rest of the organization.
And I will add to this, I think it's a spot-on answer, Nipul, and I'll maybe piggyback a little bit, especially the latter part of your answer. I completely agree that it does not need to be something, you know, very elaborate. And it is a question that people ask of us a lot, because there is this buzzword of hyper-personalization, and we found, and this is kind of an interesting thing when you work with the AI doesn't have a bias, right? So AI simply looks at conversion rates. And so it appears that some personalization is absolutely necessary, and then it appears that the conversion rates actually begin to drop with hyper-personalization. And we can guess why that is. Maybe people think it's a little bit creepy when you, like, you know too much about them or something like that. But we find that providing context, light context in the message seems to be sufficient. So Rachel would have conversations like, hey, thank you for stopping by our booth at Dreamforce, or thank you for, you know, downloading our trial software, or thank you for, you know, stopping by our website or filling out a request form. And that a little bit of context, which Rachel finds in CRM, is sufficient to get very high engagement rates. And when people go overboard, it seems to drop off a little bit. So it's not that hard to start down the personalization path.
That makes sense. Thank you for that. Unfortunately, it looks like we're all out of time when it comes to questions. However, if folks watching this, if you had questions that went unanswered, we'll be sure to have your questions passed along to the presenters so they can follow up with you via email to make sure that your questions get answered. So. I want to say thanks again to Katrina, Nipul, and Victor for such a great presentation, and thank you to all of our attendees for taking the time to join us today. Please be sure to join us for our next session taking place tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern, where folks are going to learn how to create a data strategy for marketing attribution success. It's one that you don't want to miss. So thanks again, everyone, and have a great rest of the day.